The Sigma 35 1.2 DG Art Mark II is one of those lenses that immediately raises one difficult and obvious question. Is it worth the money? The short answer is yes. It is an astonishing lens, extremely well built with superb picture quality, a premium look and feel. Even the lens hood on this it's very much premium. It has this thickness to it, it has a button to lock it and this rubber ring around it. It looks great. It feels and looks great. So over the past few weeks I've been using this lens primarily in two contexts: portrait, street photography, and I also tried landscape and astrophotography. The goal wasn't to test it in controlled conditions or controlled conditions only, but to see whether its optical performance, size, handling, build quality in real-life situations justifies its position on the market, and whether it offers something meaningful over the alternatives. So in this video, we'll go through real-world images, look closely at the image quality, and then come back to the central question: whether or not this clearly impressive lens is worth your money. So now we're in Lightroom and we're going to take a look some of the more pixel peeping and then some of the more organic situations, real life situations taken with this lens. To be quite honest, there's not much to see on the pixel peeping section. The lens is just perfect, but just to make sure, let's check out for chromatic aberration. I took this shot of winter branches against overcast sky. F1.2, which is where chromatic aberration should be the most obvious. And if we zoom in at 100% in Lightroom, there's almost zero chromatic aberration going on, maybe a little bit in the center, a little bit of magenta here, but really not by much. And it gets even better in the corners, paradoxically. Very perfect image, and here you can appreciate the sharpness, the amazing sharpness of this lens. Next is astrophotography. Astrophotography is probably the most demanding genre, the most demanding subject on any lens. So let's check out how this one fares. Here we have a photo of the Orion Nebula, Orion constellation, with the Orion Nebula, of course. And if we zoom into the nebula, it's absolutely beautiful at this focal length. The stars are sharp and pointy as they should be. They have their own color, so there is no magenta or cyan chromatic aberration on the stars, which sometimes happens with more inappropriate lenses. And if we go to the corners, stars are still relatively pointy, almost perfect circles, not too much of any kind of coma or astigmatism. It's just perfect from corner to corner. Now, just to be sure, I compared this lens to the 40mm f1.4 Sigma Art lens, which is like one of the most perfect lenses for astrophotography, for constellations, beloved among the astrophotographers. And unfortunately on that night the light pollution was a bit of a problem. So this is with 40mm and this is with 35mm. Right off the bat you can obviously see that 35mm is a bit wider, of course, but even at matching settings it is also a bit brighter, which completely surprised me because I don't know why. I just expected them to be equal, but they're not. I guess this is because it's a thinner lens, it's a smaller lens. Maybe there's less glass between the stars and the sensors. I might have been a bit inaccurate with the manual focusing on the 35mm because they are both equally sharp. But if we check in the corners, we can see that they are basically equal in terms of optical performance or any kind of lens quirks or lack thereof. They are absolutely perfect lenses throughout, and we can see that 35 millimeters on the same settings, the same aperture, is still brighter than 40 millimeter. So now let's check out how this lens performs at f1.2 at different focusing distances. This is why you buy this lens, right? You don't buy this lens to shoot at f8 or not f8 only. You buy this lens to try it out at f1.2. So let's check it out. So this is the closest focusing distance that I can manage. These are some strawberry leaves in the winter. Of course, everything melts away in this blurriness. It's a very thin, shallow depth of field. We have to search where anything at all is in focus. It's just so thin. But where it is, it's absolutely sharp. You can see clearly defined edges, those little hairs on the leaves, like here. And it's absolutely sharp from corner to corner, even on the very sides of the image, or maybe on the other side. It's absolutely sharp. f1.2, the closest focusing distance, about 20-25 centimeters. That's about a foot for my imperial friends. Next, a little further away, picture of a cat. It's the internet, right? We love cats. So picture of a cat, very sharp whiskers and hair, very beautiful. And now you can appreciate the background blur, how it melts away. A relatively no swirliness to the bokeh. It's just very nice creamy bokeh throughout. Okay. Further still, we can now see the foreground bokeh on the fruit, and we can see the background bokeh on the branches in the park. The background bokeh has a little bit of this cat eye effect to it, but not too much. It's mostly nicely circular bokeh balls, and the bokeh really beautifully melts away in the foreground and in the background, respectively. Further away still, a whole body portrait. We go to the face, very nicely, sharply defined face, even at 800 ISO, and again, the background is just a nice blur. It really beautifully separates subject from the background. This is what this lens should do in like street portraits or contextual portraits. A little further away still, I was actually aiming for the smartphone in this one. This is taken through the window of the bus. We have a nicely defined hat. You can very crisp details on the hat. Beautiful micro contrast, even at 800 ISO again. And of course the person in the back just melts away in the bokeh in the background. Beautiful shot just before the sunrise. A similar distance, maybe a little further away. Very nicely defined person. The wall is blurry, and of course the frontal pillars just as well. So if you want to separate your subject from the background, this is the way to do it, at a little wider focal ranges of the 35 millimeter. Again, a low light scenario at 4000 ISO, and even here you can see that despite the noise and the grain on the image, the subject is nicely defined and the background blurs away quite well. And here's another very beautiful example of the Sphinx or the statues in the Karnak temple. And it's not exactly Sphinx, but okay. But you can see very sharply defined statues in the front, and you see this beautiful background. It looks almost like three-dimensional, the way it's rendered. Again, with this light and this separation from the background, it's almost three-dimensional. It's really convincing image. Okay, and like the most further example I can find, it's like this street photo, or the focus is on this group of people, but the background, it's already blurry despite everything being so far away. we still get this subject to background separation. Very, very nice indeed. You really get a sense of depth. You really get a sense of three-dimensionality to the image. And if you're into that, if your motif, if your story requires that, then this is the lens to do it. This is the lens to do it. And finally, the biggest distance, almost to the infinity, the step pyramid, focusing here on the foreground tourists. Still, the sense of depth, the sense of separation you get from this lens is absolutely amazing. It's a joy to use, either for portraits or for landscapes or for shots like this. It's just amazing. Like, the three-dimensionality you get from this lens is absolutely bonkers. Okay, but what if you're not into that? What if you want like this classical F8 kind of style photography, Magnum style photography, if you want things to be sharp and defined? How does this lens work in that kind of situation? Okay, let's take a look at a few examples. This is the Nile River. I have two images. This is F8, and we can zoom in to the foreground, this first boat here. It's beautiful, sharp, and crisp. And if we go to the background, the very horizon of the image, or the houses on the other end, absolutely sharp. You can here see the boy on the boat and the flag. Super sharp. Everything is absolutely perfect. An evening example. Again, the boats in the back, sharp and crisp as they possibly could be, and the boats in the front, again, sharp and crisp as they could be. And another thing to notice is absolutely no chromatic aberration in the highlights here, on those bright reflections on the waves. This is where this is one thing that is usually very problematic with most lenses. You get a lot of magenta going on the waves in the sunny reflections, but here absolutely none. Absolutely none. Very clean, very, very perfect, clinical, almost clinical image. And if you want to go this really Magnum style documentary, it's not even f8, it's f5.6, but everything is super sharp. Beautiful black and white image. You can see the color version. Another one, even at 4.5, you get this super sharp image for this Magnum style reportage. Another one, f.5. If you want to chase this decisive moment, here it is. You can go about taking photos like this one, maybe even better, in black and white. So there you have it. There is almost nothing to regret with this lens. As you've seen through examples, it's absolutely perfect at any setting, at any distance of use. And although some older lenses do boast open aperture like 1.2, 1.4, they rarely deliver at those apertures. Now this one does. So, after spending some time with this 35mm lens, there is no real question about its optical performance, sharpness, focusing accuracy, even focusing speed, like it's really fast. All of that is exceptional, even wide open at 1.2. Build quality is excellent throughout, and while this is no small lens, it is still relatively small for the optical performance it delivers. Like, if you compare it to the 40mm 1.4 Art Sigma, it's almost half the size and half the weight. The question now remains, is it worth the money? It depends on priorities. If you're looking for maximum optical performance at 45mm focal length, combined with strong build quality and usable size, then yes, this lens clearly delivers. It is not a casual purchase, God no. I mean, here in Slovenia, it still costs more than one average salary. But then again, this is a kind of lens that you buy only once in 10 or 20 years. Think of all the great shots that are just waiting for you to take. Think of the artistic journey you might have with this one. I bet it's a ride worth taking. This lens too was with me on my trip to Egypt, In some cases, I used it for ambient shots. A lot of the time I was chasing decisive moments on the streets or the ruins. But mostly, I was looking for special people, those that stand out one way or another. It is a continuous project of mine to document and portrait such amazing human beings. You can follow me on Instagram for that.
ينبت لكم به الزرع والزيتون والنخل والعنب ومن كل الثمرات